Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we will be talking about the supernatural horror film Dead Silence, directed by James Wan and released March 16th, 2007.
Ooh.
Ancient times.
Yes. What, 18 years ago? Oh my God. I can't even think of it being 18 years ago. Oh my God.
Yeah, no,
Man.
it's crazy because I remember when this movie came out and I'm so excited to see it. So, yeah, time is scary.
I haven't seen this movie since.
I haven't either. I own it on DVD. I bought the DVD probably in 2007 or 2008 when it came out. And then I've just held on to it for that many years and never actually put it into a DVD player or anything. Because I just like to collect, especially back then I was collecting a lot of movies and stuff. I'm like, oh, one day. So hey, one day I'll watch it. Did eventually happen. Even if it took 18 years. It happened.
You know what, Peg? You never know when something we learn on this podcast ends up like coming through in a really big way. But it happened for me this week at trivia when the question was about the descent. It was basically about the crawlers, and the movie ended up being The Descent, and we were the only team that knew it. Meaning I was the only one that knew it because I was the person on the team. So it was super fun to be able to pull on that, and the crawlers that, it helped us win. So it was cool.
Hold on to DVDs, hold on to movie information. You never know when you're going to need it.
No, definitely not.
Also, I have and I used the unrated version
Excellent.
On DVD because I come from the era where that was a thing. So I don't know if it's any different than what other people watched, whether you or our listeners right now. So if I mention a thing that you don't remember happening, and this goes to Daphne and any of you listening, maybe that's why.
Yeah. That has happened before. We usually sync up and figure out, okay, which version are we watching? I did not watch the unrated version, but I do know what the differences are between the two, so I'm sure that we'll be able to,
yeah, I have no idea what the differences are. All I know is when it started, it was like, this has been edited to add new scenes and new things that were not in the original version. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, they're not going to tell me what is or isn't in the original. So my notes are just for the unrated version. So again, if I'm just like, and then this happened, and you're like, no, it didn't, I'll be like, well, I know why. Okay.
Yeah, mostly that revolves around Mary Shaw having a very creepy, disgusting long tongue, which I didn't see.
You didn't see any of that at all?
No.
Oh, so my undead Gene Simmons cosplay joke would go right over people's heads.
I love it. No, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah. I wonder then, because I saw this movie when it first came out. I haven't seen it since, so I legitimately didn't remember anything. Even where, I'm speculating on things that are going to happen, because I had no memory of anything.
I did remember the big twist.
I didn't, but I figured it out very easily. Even though I didn't remember it happening, I was paying enough attention. I'm smarter now than I was in 2007.
You've got a podcaster's brain. You pay attention to those little details.
To where, the first time that Jamie is meeting Ella and talking to his father, I was like, yeah, look where she's standing. Look what she's doing. 100%.
Yes.
That's what's going on. Got it. It didn't take me long at all. Even though I don't remember it. But yeah, I was like, yeah. I
watched for that the whole time because I knew the twist. And I'm like, I didn't pick up on it the first time. So now I really want to do it.
Oh, I didn't either, I'm sure. But this time I was like, it's kind of obvious.
They're always in the similar positions.
Mm-hmm. standing like off behind him with a hand behind his back. Like I was like, yeah.
Almost like she's holding a stick.
Mm-hmm. And you can even see her like mouth kind of moving a little bit every now and then. I was like, yeah, okay. Figured that out. Clocked that quick. But yeah, the tongue thing. Yeah, that's interesting though. None of that was in the regular version that most people probably ended up watching that are listening to this. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So you don't get... I'm just curious. I'm jumping ahead, but who cares? You get the little clown doll, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and jump to that scene, whatever I saw that maybe was added, because there's the whole like, come closer so I can tell you what happened, and then I'm like, well, of course you don't do that. And so he gets close to the clown doll, and then it like basically tells him that Lisa was pregnant, and then the tongue comes out and licks him in the face.
Yeah, we didn't get that.
And then he's like, ah! And then, like, the clown, like, raises up into the air. And then you see Mary Shaw standing behind it, holding it. And her giant tongue is going through the back of the clown's head and then out the clown's mouth. And then it's like this really... It was super creepy.
Yeah, no, I didn't see any long tongues.
That's wild, because there was so much of it.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is a very gory death for Henry.
Oh, yeah, because the tongue was... also a big part of Henry's death that I saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. She was eating his tongue too. And saying, I now have your voice, Henry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't have any of that.
Which is another note that I have that then people wouldn't understand. Where, was just in those R.I.P. Henry, Mary Shaw's out here collecting the voices of those who scream and become their victims.
When we post our feedback post, we should ask our listeners... or let our listeners know they should watch the unrated version.
Yes, yeah.
If they can.
Yeah. I don't even know how you, like, find one version or the other. Even if that's even available. The unrated version may not be available on... Because I think right now, as we're recording this, because I did look anyway, even though I own the DVD, but I was like, if it is streaming somewhere, maybe I'll just do that so I don't have to do all the work of getting my DVD out and putting it in my PS5. So many steps. So it was like, if it's streaming somewhere, it's not as of this time. Like, it was one of those, like, had to rent it on Amazon situations.
Yeah. I rented it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And when you do that, I don't think you can choose, like, original or
you
unrated
have
version.
what
you get what you get. You don't throw a fit right now.
Exactly.
So I may be the only one that got all the unrated version stuff, because that's just the version that I've owned for 18 years and kept.
Exactly. Yeah, I was looking really quickly to see if there were any, like, the deleted scenes or whatever were on YouTube, and I don't see them. Mm-hmm. I think there's a video for the alternate ending. But that's about it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so we'll just go with, if I say something and you're like, what? Then that's why. And Daphne will call me on it. Or not call me on it, but, Oh, I will. You can have the job being, and that was probably an unrated thing, which, if most all of it is tongue related, then okay.
It's something about the tongue. I don't know if or what the issue was. Mm-hmm. I will, however, read something in a little bit that talks about Leigh Whannell's reaction to this movie, because he was involved heavily with this one. And it explains some things that I think you will find interesting. Mm-hmm. Some of the plans and things that did not get fleshed out.
Yeah.
So, now that we're, about 10 minutes into the podcast, let's go ahead and do our production notes like we usually do.
Yeah.
It was filmed in Elora in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It was written by Leigh Whannell and based on a story that Leigh Whannell wrote with the director, James Wan. Wan and Whannell are
Wan and
so... Wan and Whannell.
Wan and Whannell. That's fun to say.
Wan and Whannell, yeah. They're responsible for the Saw franchise.
Yep.
And we've not covered any of those yet. That's another franchise that we need to look into at some point.
Got to start with the first. Got to start with the original, with the first Saw, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably still the best one. It doesn't get as crazy, and there's not like all the like elaborate, over the top torture porn things, but just it was very simplistic. at its core of something that was just very unique and new to the horror genre at the time. So definitely should get on that sometime. The
twist, like so big. I think it was the first thing I saw Leigh Whannell in. Mm-hmm. I had never heard of him before.
Probably the same, because I was in like junior high at the time, probably. Or late, no. Yeah, probably.
It was around 2004, 2003, right in there. So they dedicated this film to Greg Hoffman, who was a producer that had worked with Wan and Whannell on the Saw franchise, and he passed away in December of 2005. He was involved a little bit with this movie before he passed away. Budget was $20 million. It grossed $22.4 million at the box office. 92 minutes long. Pake, give us a synopsis.
All right, fresh from IMDb. It's probably like one of the most spoilery synopsises that I found, but it was the best one. So usually it's like, I like it vague. This one's like less vague. After his wife meets a grisly end, Jamie Ashton returns to his haunted hometown of Ravens Fair to find answers. His investigation leads him to the ghost of a ventriloquist named Mary Shaw, who seems to have ties to his entire family tree.
Yes. So much that poor Jamie uncovered in this movie. Little by little by little. I kind of felt for him a little bit. He wasn't really responsible for the things that his family did. And yet, he was held responsible.
Yep. Yeah. It was fun to go dive back into. Again, before we get like character stuff, just a couple like little notes about the beginning. Because like just jumping into this movie again for the first time in all these years. It's again the unrated version thing I mentioned. And then that opening factoid when the movie starts, the whole thing about the beliefs of spirits of the dead speaking through the stomachs of people being the origin of ventriloquism was wild. And immediately I paused. I was like, "That's not true. That's made up. They completely made that up." So I went online and did some research, and nope, it's true. And what a crazy thing to know. Thanks, James Wan.
I know. Don't you love how your world has been completely changed forever by something that you never wanted to know in the first place?
It's like, all right then.
Yep.
And then the opening credits, like going right into the opening credits. Like we don't get like an opening of the movie and then going into the credits. Like it's just this opening credits, and they were maximum mid-aughts vibes. For sure. It was like, it is an era with movies like this.
For real.
And yeah, because
the score for it was really impactful. It kept coming up in the film, and I was just like, man, this is really freaky. Like, it's perfect for this movie.
Yeah, this is just like an era of horror movies like this. And I remember seeing it in 2007 when it came out, and I mainly really wanted to see it because the official soundtrack, although I don't think you hear it in the movie or even in the credits, but like if you like bought like the soundtrack at the time to a thing, they would also have extra songs that were thrown on there. They're like inspired by, or just like we threw together songs we also like that just, the official soundtrack included a song by the band Aiden that I was really into at the time, peak emo days back in 2007. Although that band is not really around anymore because the singer is kind of not a good person, allegedly. No charges were actually ever filed. He was never actually, police never charged anything. But it's honestly very kind of fascinating in a really sick and fucked up way. Story, the things that he was allegedly involved in, just in case Will ever hears this. I'm not going to say you officially did anything, but allegedly. But that's not what we're here for. But maybe some other time. It's an interesting list of accusations for sure. Again, in a really sick and fucked up way, but interesting.
Definitely. I feel like, Peg, that isn't the first time that you've brought up the lead singer of a band that's been involved with the soundtrack and they've done something.
I don't know what it is about the whole like 2000s emo and scene music era of just a lot of really problematic people making good music. I don't know what the deal was.
And some people made it through just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Not all lead singers of emo bands are problematic.
Not all, but there's a lot of them.
There are some, for
and
sure.
It's tough because it's a lot of the bands that I really liked. And then it's like, why? Why do that? But
yeah. Yeah, I want to ask you off the top because I have people that I've talked to about us covering this movie, and they mentioned to me their fear or disdain for ventriloquist dummies. Do they freak you out?
Nah.
They don't bother you?
No.
Okay, because some people it does freak out. For me, it doesn't really freak me out at all.
Nah.
You know, I'm not bothered by it. Although, if I had one delivered to my house and suddenly the jaw on it dropped down, I would put it outside very quickly. It would not still be in my home.
Oh, yeah, no, that's... If we dive into notes, because we start with Jamie, obviously, most of them are... Although, it's another one of those situations where like there's a whole chunk of important stuff in the middle that I'm like, yeah, I'll just skip over because then I focus more on other things going on. But yeah, is Jamie and Lisa have this random creepy-ass ventriloquist dummy delivered to the apartment. And he's like, no thanks, I didn't order that. We're good.
Yeah, no. I don't think I would, yeah. Jamie, I think, had a very problematic childhood.
Yeah. I guess Lisa was also from Ravensfair. I assume they were like childhood friends.
Yeah.
Because she's the first one that brings up, beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. Something scary.
Yes. Yeah, so I went and looked into that to get the entire thing because they didn't really give you every single word.
They did. At least I got
Until the end. So, beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, make sure you never ever scream.
Yeah. Ella's the one that delivers that.
There's one last little line. Or she'll rip your tongue out at the seam. Yeah. That we really didn't.
No, we didn't get that one.
But evidently that's part of it. So, I will point out one other thing before we dive completely in, and that is Bob Gunton playing the father. He's that guy that's in every movie and no one remembers his name. He's one of those guys. It's just how it is. Let's dive in with Jamie.
All right, yeah. Well, we get, at least with him, yeah, is the ventriloquist dummy, and that's pretty quick. Yeah, it's creepy. It's weird. He leaves to go get takeout, and Lisa sets it up to like scare him, and then while he's gone, it murders her.
Yes.
Brutally. Which again, like the whole thing, because I'm like, she goes flying across the room, and like all this is like, how does a doll do that? Again, I hadn't seen this movie since 2007, so I was like, yada yada, supernatural, whatever. Like, how does that? And then it's like, it comes back around, you're like, oh, it's like literally the ghost of Mary Shaw that then kind of comes out and can do stuff. So it's like, no, she was killed by Mary Shaw, and the doll is just a conduit to transport her around. Although there's a lot of little things about this. It's like, how does the doll get from one place to the other sometimes? And it moves around a lot. And there's a lot of,
yeah,
like even like all of the dolls getting dug up and then put in their display cases at the theater. Like there's no explanation for how they all got there.
No.
Jamie's like, somebody dug them all up and brought them back. And then that's the most we get out of that. Because like maybe Ella is working for it. Maybe she did that. But we don't get any confirmation on that. So
okay.
Who knows?
Here we go. I was going to wait. I'm not going to wait anymore. I'm going to give you this information. I think it's pretty amazing. I went and got a little, I dug a little deep into some things. And one thing that I found out was that Leigh Whannell was very unhappy with how this movie turned out because he felt like the studio interfered too much and watered down things that he and James Wan really wanted to put in it. Part of that was this tragic backstory of Mary Shaw, which we saw only little teasers of, but not really the full, like, meat of it. And so this article was on filmcut.com, and this is what it said. The screenplay opens with a woman telling her son Mary Shaw's tale as a scary bedtime story. The alternate opening is basically a watered-down and abridged version of this that greatly alters Mary Shaw's original story. The story presented in the screenplay by the woman to the little boy shows that Mary Shaw was a victim of domestic violence at the hands of her husband and explains why she turned to her dolls as a means to cope. Mary is revealed to have lost a child due to her husband's physical abuse. The loss of her child caused Mary to spiral and become emotionally fragile, treating her dolls as if they were her children. It can be inferred that Mary was never able to have children after the loss of her unborn child.
Mm-hmm.
Ella figures into this with Ella's story was originally written to heavily parallel Mary Shaw's in the screenplay. Ella is presented purposefully as delicate, beautiful, and unassuming in all versions of the film. However, her heel turn to villainy is more effective in the original screenplay because of the sheer power in Ella's story. Ella is the much younger wife of Jamie's brutish father, a man with a history of abusive behavior. Jamie is understandably estranged from his father as a result of the abuse his own mother was subjected to at the hands of Edward. Jamie discovers that Ella was once pregnant and lost the child because of Edward's abuse. She tells the story to Jamie that mimics Mary Shaw's origin story about how she was abused and lost her child. It was after the loss of her child that she started to hear Mary Shaw's voice. It is then that Ella and Mary's master plan is revealed.
Yeah, there's a lot that got left out that would be very helpful. Because then that leads to Mary Shaw, of course. Yeah, spiraling is one way to put it. To where, I mean, to the point that she kidnaps, murders, and a child, and then uses his body as a puppet. So it's like, there's a line that was crossed there from, like, tragic story to, like, you're still the villain. For sure.
Yeah.
But then Ella, yeah, because it's like the whole time, I picked up on it very quickly. It's like, okay, yeah, Ella is puppeting Edward. A deadward. And at first, because I didn't remember anything, so I was like, okay, so Deadward, and she's puppeting him, and she's getting in, and the whole thing with Jamie, I thought she was, like, trying to kill Jamie because she was after the inheritance or something, and then was like, okay, well, if I send the doll to Jamie and then Jamie dies, then the heir is gone and then I get all the money. But it's like, nope, money had nothing to do with it. It was just revenge. Because at the end, without knowing the information you just said, I was like, and then Ella was also Mary Shaw somehow. How exactly? Doesn't matter. The movie's over.
Yeah, there were a lot of holes, I think.
Yeah.
And this information would have been very helpful to know. Yeah. Because how they painted Mary Shaw was a crazy old ventriloquist lady.
Yeah, who some little boy called her out on her lips moving, and so she murdered him, turned him into a doll, and then killed his family. Like, it's like, yikes. So there's like...
Yeah. You go the gamut of everything, and you're not really sure exactly what you're getting in this movie because you're missing a big chunk of the story and the why. Like, they don't give it to you.
But it seems like a piece of that still remained because the actual very end of the movie is like the hand of Mary Shaw closing a book.
Yes.
Which, now that makes more sense after you mentioned the other stuff because, like, I don't know what that's about, but yeah, maybe that's what it's about.
Yeah, all we really get is that the little boy, who is the great uncle of Jamie,
Michael Ashen,
is calls out Mary Shaw. Doesn't really cause any issue as far as, like, Mary Shaw. People didn't look at her and say, oh, she's faking or whatever. They were all still really enraptured with what she was doing. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't the issue. She took it upon herself to kidnap him and turn him into a doll, which is just insane, twisted, crazy. But then people in the town blamed her for it and cut out her tongue, and then she died. Like, they killed her.
Which is also I mean, it sets up the curse. It's like, that's why she only kills people that scream, and then she can take out their tongue. Is it goes back to, like, because whenever the townspeople hunted her down, they forced her to scream and then cut out her tongue. So it's like an eye for an eye or whatever, tongue for a tongue, really.
Yeah.
Where it's a very specific thing that she can do. But man, even though, yes, okay, she, like, they never found the boy's body, which is weird because he was in the theater the whole time, apparently. How bad were they? They weren't looking very well. But, like, okay, so you assume she's behind the disappearance of a child. And that's the, like, links that you immediately go to is force her to scream and cut out her tongue. It's like, this town needed therapy. There was not a therapist in this town, apparently.
No, not at all.
Everybody was a little extra with everything they did.
And they cut out her tongue, and so even, like, her life, she could not have done anything. No more ventriloquism, nothing. Mm-hmm. And that was all she really had for any joy in her life. And basically that's all we're given. We're really not given any other information other than she's a crazy ventriloquist lady who did a bad thing and was silenced by the townspeople, and then she died.
But then in death, she got a new super long, crazy ghost tongue that only I saw, I guess.
Yes, that would be correct. I did not see the ghost tongue.
It was wild.
I think I'm okay to not have seen it. I mean, it's like, no, I don't think I needed to. But I was glad to have the additional information, and I was going to read it later in the episode, but now I feel like it can almost be talking points. As we're going through it, we can, connect pieces based on it. I will say, I really felt for Jamie because this was not his fault. Mm-hmm. He did nothing wrong. Yeah.
It was like in that last conversation with his dad, but not really, with Ella, where he said, yes, sins of the father. That's all this is. It's, of course not literally his father, although I guess technically in a way, if they would have left in some of the other stuff, he was still, part of things with Ella and stuff that we don't know anything about.
He was still part of the problem.
Yeah.
When Jamie comes in to talk to his dad, you know they're estranged. Mm-hmm. His father did some mean shit to him, like it's obvious. He doesn't even stay at that house. Like, he stays at a motel. He's not, going home is not an option. And he seemed genuinely shocked that his father was treating him in a somewhat kind way.
Yeah.
Because that is not how he's used to being treated by his dad.
Mm-hmm. And so even he's told by his dad, quote unquote, it's like, well, I sent you away so that you wouldn't have to deal with this curse. And we don't know if that's true or not. That's what Ella said.
No.
So we don't know.
Right. Right. I mean, it could have been part of it, but...
Who knows? Yeah.
People do things like that. They will cut people they care about off because they want to protect them from something. We've seen that in other movies. Yeah. We just covered the monkey.
Yep.
So it's something, that has come up before.
Yeah. But yeah, so after, we haven't really we've talked about a lot, and it's been 30 minutes, but we also haven't covered much of anything. But that's okay. But yeah, so with the death of Lisa, and then, things for Jamie aren't looking great. He's suspect number one in his wife's death, and a mystery puppet's not a great lead to point things in a different direction.
No, definitely not.
It's where we meet Detective Lipton, Donnie Wahlberg, which was fun. I forgot about him being in this.
Me too. I did as well.
Such a ridiculous character, but it's honestly great. I loved him in that.
Yeah.
Also, I learned while watching the two of them talk in the, Detective Lipton talking to Jamie, I learned Ryan Quanten, whatever, that plays Jamie, is Australian. I didn't know that before. I didn't have to look it up. His accent slipped while he's talking to Detective Lipton when he says his wife's name is Lisa.
Yes.
And as soon as he said it, he was like, wait, so you're going to blame me for Lisa's death? And I was like, Lisa? And then immediately I was like, well, he's Australian. And then I went to IMDb and went, yep, I'm correct. That one slipped through and they didn't catch it.
This came out like the year before he was cast, or maybe he was filming at the time, the role of Jason Stackhouse in True Blood.
Yeah.
So right after this, he was in that.
Yeah, because I was wondering, it's like, man, his Australian accent slipped through in the final cut of this movie. I was like, is this an early role for him? Has he just not been acting much before? And I was like, no, not really. He was a child actor, like, probably in a lot of Australian series,
Yes.
but, like, he'd been acting since, like, 94 or something. So, like, since when he was a kid, so... But this might have been one of his earlier using an American accent roles. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, it's very hard, too, sometimes to tell the difference between an Australian or a New Englander. That's something I've learned.
Yeah, some people cannot figure that out. Don't know the difference.
No. All I know is it's not fake.
Don't worry, I don't think any of our listeners are that stupid.
I love our listeners.
But yeah, and then, he's having this conversation with Detective Lipton. And he's like, where I come from, dummies are a bad omen. Like, it's a local legend. I'm like, what a weird little backstory for a movie, but I'm along for the ride. Okay.
Something about, like, bringing death. Like, he elaborated on that, and I thought, oh my gosh. And I have to tell you something. I actually have a ventriloquist dummy in my basement in a box somewhere. I had it as a kid because I thought I wanted to learn. It never worked right. Like the thing that you use that's on the stick to make the mouth move would like not connect, and so the mouth wouldn't move. But I had to tell Chris that I had one because he was talking about it one day about ventriloquist dummies because we were watching a different movie. And I said, oh, I have one in the basement. He seemed genuinely disturbed at that. Like, I don't even know where it is. It's in a box, in a tote, in the basement.
That's worse, Daphne. You see how that's worse, that you don't know where it is.
I do.
Again, I know I just said they don't bother me, but also that the thought of there's a ventriloquist dummy in a box somewhere in your basement is a little unsettling, a little scary. And then for you to follow it up with, I mean, I don't know where it is. It's down there somewhere. That's not good.
Aw, does this mean you won't come back to visit? Are you afraid? You've been in my house and spent the night here, and there's been a ventriloquist dummy in the basement.
He was there the whole time. Oh, no. Well, I survived, so I'm okay.
Okay, good.
And yeah, because Lisa mentioned the Mary Shaw thing earlier, and then Jamie's ripping up the velvet and stuff from the box and sees that's exactly where this dummy came from. It's Billy, one of her act partners.
You know what? There's a connection between Billy and Saw and Jigsaw the Killer. It's also the name of the puppet in the Saw franchise. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. A little nod to themselves, their own work. And yeah, so with seeing that, he's got to go back to the source of everything to get answers. Welcome, again, I'm loving town signs in movies lately. It's become a running thing, like 3 in a row, like Monkey and then Children of the Corn, and now this. Where when he goes into town and we get a focus on like the welcome sign and welcome to Raven's Fair, a quiet place to live.
Yeah, you see why it's so quiet. Everything is closed. It reminded me a little bit of It, like when the adults go into town, at least in the earlier in the early version, I think it's like 89, 90 in that miniseries. Where things are just closed. It's just not to this extent. I mean, the extent in this movie, I'm not sure how they even could still call it a town. Because it seemed like everything was boarded up.
Yeah. It's run down is one way to put it. Yeah, it's definitely seen better days. But yeah, Jamie's from there, and his father, when I took this note, his father still lives there. Not really. Lives as operative. Maybe not the word we'd use, but yeah, his father's body is still there in a giant old mansion. And Jamie's father seems like, yeah, as we learn, even in this movie before the information you gave, is like, he was a pretty terrible man. It was good for Jamie leaving it all behind. Until now, because he's got questions and needs to clear his name. So he's back.
Yeah. Well, Edward didn't look well. Even, I mean, we know why he didn't look well, but I mean, he didn't look well. He
the first time you see him in the chair, and it's like,
he looks gray. He's dead.
Yeah, again, I didn't remember any of the stuff, but like that note I said, noticing how when Edward is speaking, Ella's standing slightly behind him with her hand on his back while he's sitting, like a ventriloquist act visually, and he looks quite pale with like makeup on his face, like a dummy. And the way he looks at her up at with his eyes moving and the head drooping before she leaves. So it's been so long since I've seen this that I remember nothing, but he's dead. She's controlling him, and she sent the doll to Jamie, right? Like immediately I was like, I've figured it out so fast.
Well, and you have to imagine that he wasn't dead a super long time. It's kind of like she put the plan in motion and then killed him, and because he would have just been decayed if she had killed him very much more before Jamie came to visit.
Yeah. Wouldn't he be smelling so bad, though?
Well, you'd think so, but maybe she has... Febreze works wonders for things.
You would know. For dead bodies?
No, I wouldn't. But it works wonders for other things, like pets and stuff, so...
Mm-hmm. The other thing, and then because he meets up with Henry and Marion, I was like, so I guess he's planning the funeral and burial in Ravensfair? That's weird. I don't know why he would do that. I would think he'd still want to... Because there's talk about Lisa's family. It's like, oh, I don't talk to him much. It's like, well, you think now would be a good time to, and there's probably a different place that you can have the funeral and burial and stuff. Why are you bringing her back? Which I guess, again, maybe she's also from there, so maybe her family
I think
also. So
yeah. I think that's probably why. And I thought it was incredibly suspicious that his father wasn't at the funeral, but, I mean, we know why.
Yeah. Now,
You can't pass off a ventriloquist dummy person at a funeral with people who can walk behind and see, I've got a stick. I got a head on a stick. Yeah. Definitely not.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, he's back at the motel that you're talking about, and that's where we first see officially with him, Jamie there. The dummy is possessed by the ghost of Mary Shaw. Jamie sees her in the motel room, and the poem rang true, though, because he didn't scream, and he was fine.
You can't scream. I mean, Jamie knew the rules. He knew.
Yeah.
Everything. He reminded Lipton so many times when they were in the theater later, don't scream, don't scream, don't scream.
Yeah. And then after the funeral, he sees, like, the grave of Mary Shaw and stuff, and then runs into Marion again, which, the whole, like... Yeah, Marion was, a little wacky, but she does know what she's saying. She's here. No one is safe. You must bury the doll. It's like, yeah, definitely go with that. It's like, Marion seemed a little off, but she was right.
Yes.
So then we get Jamie going to just bury the doll back in its grave. That's where you see, like, Mary Shaw had all the dolls buried in little graves with gravestones all around her. I was like, that's not absolutely the creepiest fucking thing ever.
I had forgotten that part. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, they've all got little graves with their names and... Okay, a doll graveyard. Okay.
And then that's where he's saying, I'll send him home. It's time to go home, Billy. Son of a bitch, Billy! Why didn't you go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home?
Oh my God.
Had to. Yeah. Doesn't go up because Lipton dug him back up and then was waiting for him at the motel, which is another story bit that I...
Why would you do that?
Don't understand.
Why would you dig it up?
I was so confused by Lipton. Towards, like, he was very sus at points.
Honestly,
it's
I thought he was a figment of his imagination at one point.
Right, that or like if he was like
sense.
connected with Ella and was like helping her with stuff. Because I was like, there's like little things. And again, I wonder, I guess they didn't talk about, was there more for his story? Like whenever he's back at the motel with Billy and he's like, well, if you don't want to answer my questions, answer his. And then like how seamlessly he's moving Billy's head and like eyes and mouth. It's like, I mean, he can't do the speaking part very good. He's not a ventriloquist, but I was like, why is he so good at controlling Billy's head around?
Yeah.
Is he practiced in this? Yeah, I was like,
prior experience?
I was like, that's a little suspicious. It's a little iffy. But yeah, it was weird. And then like, what the fuck are you doing digging up 100 dolls? Like, how is that helping your case on Jamie at all? It's like there's something weird about you going to the cemetery and digging up the dolls, and like it made me think that like he was part of it, but then I guess he wasn't. But it was very weird. I like that where he's like, I'm gonna take this one with me, and it's like, oh please, by all means, take the doll. Lipton.
Take the demon doll.
I don't want it here. It kills people. You like. Please.
Well, at the very least, it hurts people.
Yeah. But it was weird. Because Lipton said at the station, I don't see how his doll can be connected to murder. And then now he hears digging the thing back up and returning it to Jamie, claiming you're burying capital murder evidence. So make up your mind, Donnie. Which is it? Can it not be connected, or is it major evidence? Which one?
Exactly.
But then he's like, well, good night, neighbor. And I like that. Jamie's like, neighbor? And like looks out like, oh, shit. And then because I hadn't seen this in a while, I was trying to remember. I was like, oh, cool. So now Billy's going to kill Lipton in his hotel room. And then it's going to look like Jamie killed the lead detective in his own murder case. Awesome.
Well, yes, because I had forgotten that part. And I thought so too. I did love Jamie's little exchange with him when Lipton said, you're a free man now. And Jamie's like, good, it'll give me more time to do your job for you. Mm-hmm. It's like, yep, okay. Because he's, again, trying to figure out who killed his wife, because he's obviously upset.
Yeah.
He loved his wife. Like, they were a fun little couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to scare each other and just, he went out to get takeout. He didn't even know his wife was pregnant.
Mm-hmm. I had just a few more notes about Lipton as like an extra, so I'm just going to finish those while I'm on them, so I don't have to come back to him. He's always shaving. Why?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. One of those electric razors that you see everywhere, and you know that they don't do a good job, but yet people keep using them.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Donnie Wahlberg fumbling in a little rowboat was a fun image for some reason. Didn't know I needed that, but it was fun.
And yet he can handle complex choreography for New Kids on the Block.
Yeah. But in the end, R.A.P. Lipton, you were kind of an idiot. Still didn't deserve what you got, but...
He fell backwards, which I think was going to kill him anyway. But
I don't know, because Jamie takes that same fall and just crashes through the floor and goes into the water, so...
But he's screaming, and that's all it takes.
Yeah.
You can't scream.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't.
Yep. Anyway, Jamie, where were we? Because I skip a lot. I purposely did, because I'm like, well, I'm missing a lot of stuff if I stick just to Jamie all the time. But then, the first time he goes to the theater, I was like, because he learns the story when he's talking to Henry about Mary Shaw, and gets that backstory.
Which most people in the town won't talk about her and pretend it's not a thing, because they don't want to say her name ever. Yeah. Like you don't say it because it's a frightening thing for the community.
Yeah. But he gets that backstory, and so immediately he's like, well, I'll go to the theater and see I'm like, what purpose is that exactly supposed to serve, Jamie? I mean, it ends up because it's a movie and things have to work, but it's like he does get information there, but it's like, what was he expecting to actually get from there? Of course, then he learned, the backstory about Michael Ashen, the boy who heckled and wound up missing, is related to Jamie, his great uncle. It's like not an answer he was expecting going to the theater, but it's definitely an interesting answer to get.
He also finds that book that shows all these like connections of how to make the perfect doll, and like it looks like how to create a ventriloquist dummy, basically.
Right, where Mary Shaw had used those plans and stuff with Michael, and then somehow Ella has also... we see in the movie, like, there's a picture of Ella in there. So again, with the stuff that ended up getting cut out, Mary Shaw and Ella, there was a communication between the two of them that, like, she shared her plans with Ella, and she knew who she was, and that's how she... the plans that Mary had used for Michael, now Ella had been able to successfully pull off with Edward.
Yeah. Again, having the backstory and understanding makes sense. It doesn't as much, like, why would they work together? You wouldn't understand that.
Yeah.
Because, how do they know each other? They don't give us those answers. And again, this movie as a whole, there were times where I felt like things were rushed.
Yeah.
And tense when maybe we need a little more story time. And obviously, Lee Wanell agrees with us.
Yeah,
or at least with me.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's not a bad movie by any means, but there's definitely a lot of plot holes that I wish that... Yeah, because I feel like, and Lee Wanell kind of sums it up, I think, in the article you read, where I think the issue is maybe the studio was like, it's too long, or there's too much exposition that nobody cares about. Let's just wrap it up and make it ooh, scary, boom, boom, pow, we're done. And it's like, there's so much important information that you're cutting out for time.
Yeah. And it could have helped the movie make more money. Which makes sense,
because, like, on this podcast, I've noticed, like, when we cover movies, especially ones from more than 10 years ago, a lot of, like, more, slashery horror movies, none of them are over an hour and a half long.
No,
which is
they're not.
Why I like covering a lot of them, because it's quicker and easier prep for me. But yeah, sometimes nowadays you'll get a little bit more. But definitely in this era of movies, you've never had a horror movie that was more than an hour and a half. Definitely.
No,
You're not getting your 2.5 hour horror movies. That did not exist in this time.
No, it didn't.
People just didn't think that people cared and wanted that. So...
No.
And I mean, I get that to some extent, because even nowadays there's still a lot of, like, your Blumhouse movies and stuff that are still very much in that hour and a half time, and it's fine. But also, it's okay to add an extra 30 minutes if it's crucial information to the movie.
Yeah, I feel like we miss out on that, and I'd like to have it, especially because I think audiences have just gotten smarter about movies. And we're used to things. We're used to having things set up in a certain way. And I like to watch a movie that's going to give me all the, the big picture, I guess.
Yeah.
And now that I have it, kind of, from reading that article, I feel like, okay, it makes a lot more sense now. Mm-hmm. I wish we had been able to see that version that Lee Wanell and James Wan wanted to create.
Yeah. But yeah, so we have then Jamie going back to the theater a second time with Lipton, not really in tow, but just, like, following, because Henry calls Jamie to go to the theater for proof that he didn't kill his wife. Except Henry's dead. Dun, dun, dun! Yeah, fun moment. And
at that point, we had lost Henry, who was a child, who was at the theater, okay, when Mary Shaw was heckled by Michael Ashton.
Yeah. And that's how he knows the story so well, is it's like, yeah, I was there.
He was there.
Yeah. So with being at the theater, again, just kind of, they find all this stuff. The little hallway behind the wall effect was actually really cool. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
Where, Jamie goes back there to kind of look, and then he's like, remember, whatever you do, like, don't scream, and then, like, just disappears into the wall like a ghost, and you're like, what? And then, like, Lipton comes back there and then sees, like, there's, like, that little gap in, like, the hallway, and it's like, oh, that's such a cool effect, because immediately I went back to, like, my days working in a haunted house, and I'm like, oh my god, that would be the coolest thing to set up a room. You'd have to have, like, a little, like, chain or roped off area where people couldn't walk up close enough to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you would stand there in front of that wall and you'd be delivering some kind of monologue thing of, like, exposition on whatever the story of the main haunted house they're going through. Where basically I was like, that's how my brain works. Is like, oh my god, if I was building, like, a haunted house, this would be a room to use that effect. where the person giving you the story is a ghost, but you don't realize it. And then something would happen behind the people listening to that person talking that would change their, attention, and they turn around to see what happened behind them. And when they turn back around, the person's gone, because you could walk behind that little wall, but it still looks like a flat wall to the people. I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. It was like a way to just vanish in front of people. And then that little walkway could take you back around to a little entrance behind the people. So then as they're looking at the wall, what happened? Where'd the person go? You could then,
they pop
like a magic trick, be back behind them and be like, anyway, oh
my God.
It'd be cool.
Wow. Well, you know what? You could always design haunted houses as a side gig.
Who knows? Yeah. It'd be fun. But yeah, it's a cool effect. And then, we talked about, someone dug up all the dolls and brought them to the theater.
101 of them, Peg. There were 101 dolls.
So there was 101 or 102 there. Because the clown doll, but it also could have been part of the 101, maybe.
Yeah,
but
there were only 101.
But I guess if you count Michael, that was an extra doll.
Yeah, I don't know. Michael was very creepy.
He did get up at one point and was possessed by Mary Shaw. It was very brief, and it was very unsettling, but it did happen. So technically, I guess you could count him as one of her dolls, and that would be 102. Because he's definitely not one that she used in her official 101 for her act. Because that was after the fact.
No.
It was demonic Pennywise the whole time. We saw that clown. I love that.
Oh, man. All we needed was another clown.
Yeah. They're all set up in those display cases, except Billy. But yeah, we found Michael Ashen. Maybe we found him just a tiny little bit too late. 70 years. But,
I think he was pretty well preserved. I'm not sure how she preserved him. I mean, he didn't look like a skeleton.
For a 70-year-old corpse, he was looking great.
Yeah.
He was in great shape.
Not sure what his skin routine is, but, skincare is important. This is an indication of that.
The only joke that came to my mind, but it works better visually, but pronouncing it's a stretch. It's not even a good joke. But something about strings, because he's a puppet. And then I was like, well, a good skin routine, like for acne or like breakouts, you use like an astringent. Like my brain was trying to do something with it, and it's just like it just doesn't connect.
You're trying to connect it, it's not quite there.
It's not quite there enough for it to really work.
No.
But
good
language.
effort. Good effort.
Something. Yeah. There's something there. Maybe somebody can cobble a good punchline together with that, but yeah. An astringent? No, it's like nah. Don't worry about it. I tried. It's the best I can do. But yeah, then the clown with the come closer and I'll tell you. And I'm like, no, I'm with Lipton. That's 100% a sign you don't go closer.
No, you don't.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, this is where Jamie finds out that he was not the last Ashen.
Mm-hmm.
The last Ashen was inside his wife's
Lisa died
womb.
because she was pregnant, because that's the whole plan of Mary Shaw, is ending the family lines of all of those that killed her.
Mm-hmm. And she's got a book with pictures.
Mm-hmm. And so the only thing Jamie can do, destroy all the dolls. That's her connection to the mortal plane, it seems.
I thought that Lipton with the gun was very effective, but I think burning them
fire's a lot quicker.
More effective.
Yeah, a lot quicker. All of the dolls will burn up in that old theater, except Billy. Again, he's still out there somewhere. Last place that he left him was the funeral home, so got to go over there. So he does, meets up with Marion, sees that Henry is dead, and then Marion says Jamie's father took Billy. Was like, how? Would have just been Ella going over there and getting it. I don't know why she's going through the effort of how does that work? Who knows? I don't even want to try to.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. But then, so then he goes back to the house, realizes the truth about his father. That's when Mary Shaw appears, and he's just like, oh, I'll just chuck Billy into the fireplace, and done. And then that's the joke that I had, that then I realize now people won't really make sense. And banish the terrible undead Gene Simmons cosplayer back to the grave.
I mean, I think it's fantastic now that I understand what I was missing. Yeah, I think it's hilarious. I wish I had seen that version, Pate, because I would have laughed even more.
Yeah.
Or at all, because I didn't see it. But I think it's funny.
Yep, so it's all over. Except, again, like I said, as I guessed early on, the Ella puppeting a dead word. Then we got to that weird ending there, but yeah.
And R.I.P. Jamie, because he couldn't not scream.
So yes, I've got a few notes about maybe some others. Lipton, of course, I had some, but I've done all those. So Henry and Marion, I had a few. I think I've got to. So the mortician and his wife. She's a little different, as we talked about. Her stuffed crow that she carries around.
Yeah. She did.
She knows that Mary Shaw is back in town. I guess she never really left town.
She's very in tune with what's going on.
Yeah. And then Henry, of course, sees something he doesn't like when receiving Lisa's body, which then, because he knows the pattern of Mary Shaw and all this stuff, which is, again, it's like, okay, so this has been going on for like 70 years. I guess I was like, why isn't this like a national thing that people know about? But it's like, well, you can't really explain. It's a ghost. Like, what can you do about it? So, yeah, but it's been going on for a lot. A lot of people have been dying there. And then, I don't know, when I was getting the exposition stuff on the Mary Shaw stuff, at first I was like, it felt like it was recent history.
Yeah.
But then you realize, no, it's a little bit more in the past than you thought, where, yeah, because when Henry is talking about seeing her perform, and he was there, and then like we kind of get that flashback of that, and it's like, oh, he was just a young boy. And when I saw the little boy playing young Henry, I was like, why does he look so familiar? Why does that kid look so familiar? And so I had to, like, again, IMDb, trusty. And then the second that I was like, that's a baby Keir Gilchrist. I was like, that's just a young Keir Gilchrist as young Henry. He's such a cool dude. Again, he was in It Follows, which we've covered before. And even though he's mostly known for the Netflix series Atypical.
Which, have you seen Atypical?
I have not. I've seen like one episode because they're watching it at work. Riley's family was watching it whenever it was running. And so I think I maybe saw one or two episodes. It seems really great. It's a show I should probably go back and check out.
I think you would really enjoy it. It's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
And I think you'd really like it.
Yeah. And then also, me personally, I think I mentioned this when we covered It Follows, and he's in there. I also recognize him as the lead vocalist for death metal and grindcore bands Phalanx and Whelm. So
only you would know that, Pig.
Yeah.
Or maybe there are other listeners that do know that. And if you do, let me know that there's more than one person out there that is in our universe that knows about Keir Gilchrist from his musical escapades.
Right. Because, yeah, he's a great, like, metal vocalist. It's really good. So it's like crazy. It was like, why does this kid look so familiar? And then once I was like, I love this guy. Yes. Nice. This movie when he was very young, well before his musical career or these other things we know him from. But yeah.
Yeah.
But he's been in the business for a long time. Anything else? Also with that flashback of like Billy knowing Henry's name. I guess my boy's had his eye on you. I was like, nope, that's just extremely creepy and unsettling. Why does the audience think that is entertaining? That's fucked up. Like, you shouldn't be knowing these random children's names. What's wrong with you, Mary Shaw?
But she knows.
Yeah. So that's about that. And then I was trying to see if I have other notes that I might have talked about, which is just Mary Shaw and the dolls. So it's more of the horror stuff. We get it first with Lisa's death as the title of the movie, Dead Silence. All the sounds in the apartment disappear, and in complete silence, the doll lures Lisa in. And then, Mary Shaw appears and murders her.
Throws her across the room.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And she's throwing up blood, and oh man.
Which, honestly though, we didn't get that enough of like that, you know, the shift to silence where all the like the ambient sounds of wherever they're at just
it is. It's like a power down, a power off.
Because it's honestly really cool, especially in the motel where like the neon sign and then like the like water dripping kind of disappears, and then you see his eyes just kind of moving towards the bed. I'm like, those moments are so cool, and I wish we got more of them.
Yeah, I think they could have given us more.
Yeah,
but again, I think they tried, Peg. I think they did want to. Sometimes things are outside their control, and I will say this is kind of adding to something I said earlier when it came to, you know, Leigh Whannell. He only now will do spec scripts, which is basically a completed screenplay. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't want that to happen again.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But then that's fine because then we get things like Insidious and Cooties. And exactly. So, like, that's fine. That's good.
Yep. Totally fine with it. Others should follow suit if they want to be able to preserve their vision for what something is supposed to be.
Just over the years we've done this podcast, he's become a very VIP name mentioned on this podcast as Leigh Whannell. So Leigh, if you're listening, because we know you are, huge fan, come on the show, interview. We've only done one interview on this podcast, and we'd like to do more. It's just time, and like it's tough to reach out to people and get stuff, but maybe we should try harder on some things, because there's definitely a list of people and names. Leigh Whannell would definitely be somebody that would be a get for this podcast for sure. It's the names that come up the most. It's like he's one of them.
He definitely is, because he is such a visionary. Mm-hmm. If you look back at the last 20 years of horror movies, he's been involved in so many of them. Yeah. That it just makes sense. I would love to get the opportunity for us to talk to him. Even if it was for 30 minutes. It would just be great to, you know, create questions that would build a great discussion.
So Leigh, since I for sure know you're listening, come hang out. Come on, come talk. Jamie's driving Billy to the grave to go bury him, and he's just sitting in the passenger seat next to him. So some ghost-possessed doll side-eye.
Oh, man. Like, you cannot get rid of this dummy fast enough. And I just kept expecting him to pop up again, like back in the car after he'd buried him, like something weird, and he wasn't there, and he didn't pop back up till Lipton showed up with him at the hotel, and I just was expecting it.
Mm-hmm. Again, with the flashback, I did miss there's a lesson, kids. Don't heckle performers or you'll end up going missing forever.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, gets out to the gravesite. Yeah, 101 dolls. That's a lot of dolls! I guess 102 even out there, because Mary requested to be turned into one as well after her death.
She did. Can you imagine? And Henry has this terrible childhood memory of going down there and going down into the basement because his parents lived in the mortuary. Can you imagine? I would not want to live in a mortuary.
Honestly, it's pretty typical from what I understand about, like, morticians and undertakers and stuff, that usually a lot of those funeral homes, not all, like, most of the funeral homes around here where I live are just standalone funeral homes. But I guess there are places, like, it is enough of a thing that, like, funeral homes are also just connected to the home of the person who runs it, because there's just so much work constantly being done all the time that they just live on site. So it's just part of their house. Again, 6 Feet Under is a big, that they live in the house connected
they do.
To them. So.
Yeah. Have you finished that series yet?
No.
Oh, Pake.
I should. But.
It's Michael C. Hall before Dexter. A lot of greatness on that show.
Yeah. Let's see. Talked about the ghostly killing spree in this little town of full families, parents and children. It's like, no wonder nobody lives here anymore, really. Like,
yeah.
They're all, but then again, they're all families that were tied to the initial, like, thing anyway. yeah, we got like the whole expedition dump that we needed to explain the mystery, which I think we've kind of gone over. After Michael disappeared, the Ashton family, others in the town hunted down and killed Shaw. All of that, yeah. But yeah, so I think that's kind of, pretty much covered that up.
Yeah, I think that we have talked about everything that I had in my notes. I'm looking quickly to see if there's anything else. I know that Donnie Wahlberg, a.k.a. Lipton, was really having a fit at seeing so many of those ventriloquist dummies at one point. There were a couple of things that Henry said that I thought were pretty poignant. One was, there are things you remember and there are things you can't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, a little bit later in the same conversation, he says, if you go looking for answers, you just might find them. And he said it in a way that was kind of like, you may not want to know what you find. Like it's, those answers may not be what you want. It may not be what you're expecting.
All right. Well, so yeah, that's wrap that one up. That was fun. It was good to finally, I think we've talked about this movie several times as like something to cover. And it just like another one that kind of just gets kicked down the road for 5 years. But yeah, it was good to finally just go with it and watch it and revisit it after all these years. Thanks to the power of the randomizer.
Yeah, we did something a little different this week. I
randomize my life. So everything that I can randomize is randomized most of the time because I'm just that kind of person. I like to just go with the fates. Maybe that's why I love D&D and like GMing tabletop games is let the dice tell the story. So I do that in my like daily life, literally. Just like if I can randomize something and have something tell me what to do, then I like to do that.
And when I'm playing Kids on Bikes, when you're the GM, I like to control as much as I can without the rolling of the dice, which is actually the opposite of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I think I just have to bring my own element into it, and it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
And also playing has helped me let go a little bit more, too, because I can't be in control of everything. And that's actually a good thing. Sometimes you have to be able to just step back and let go.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how this worked is we didn't have a movie for this week. We hadn't really figured something out. It was getting down to the wire. So Daphne, maybe as a joke, but texted me. It was like, well, why don't you just build a randomizer with titles of movies that we want to cover, and then you just let it choose what we're going to do. And I don't know if she was joking or not, but I responded with, okay, send me a list of movies and I'll add a list of my own, and we'll make it happen. But the rule is, though, if we ask the randomizer, if we turn to the randomizer, we must abide by the randomizer. And it gave us dead silence, so we did it. And turned out pretty good. I think it's good.
This week I'm okay with it. I think it's good. There are definitely some movies that I would not be excited to talk about, and they may end up on that list. And if they do and they come up, then that's scary for me because I'm not excited. There are a couple of movies we should cover. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not a fan of them. Like I'm not.
Yeah, that's the rules. If you want me to do the randomizer list, it almost sounds like a premise of a horror movie in its own, where I'm like, if you call upon the randomizer, you must obey the randomizer, like, or there will be dire consequences.
And I knew that you used the randomizer for some things in your life, but the way that you were explaining it on Buffalo the other day, it kind of blew my mind to the level that you go with the randomizer, like for just about everything.
Yep.
You just let it pick for you, and I wish I was laid back enough to do that more often. I'm not. I know myself, and so this is a little way for me to be a little more adventurous, I guess, in picking what we cover. So
yeah, we don't have to do it every week, but you know what? The more we want to, if we're like, I don't know what we want to cover, then we call upon the randomizer and do its dark bidding, whatever it says.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what it says. Hopefully the next one it decides. If we don't... I mean, we have some movies that we're going to cover that involve having guests on the show. And so those aren't on there because those have to be actually scheduled with a guest. However, in this case, we knew we were recording just the two of us, so we had to come up with something.
I don't know. This is kind of off the top. Maybe do we do the randomizer right now? For next week's?
Sure, Peg.
Do we have anything planned for next week? Not officially.
We don't. We do not have anything planned for next week.
Of course, I can make this one even more interesting. Because the way we did this is sometimes the randomizer, we decided it beforehand for the first time using it. I let it randomize 3 movies, and then we picked out of those 3. But if we're going to do it right here on the podcast, then it's a one and done situation, I think.
Oh, God. Okay. All right, Peg.
All right.
I'm scared.
It's running. It's rolling. We got to go. A must abide. Huh. This will be interesting. Damsel.
Damsel.
That's the Millie Bobby Brown Netflix movie. That I don't know how well it came out.
Okay.
Not the one with the robot or whatever, but the other one that she did with like the dragons and stuff or whatever.
Yes, she's a sacrifice.
So yeah,
I think has a prince there having a wedding, and she's being sacrificed. I think.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll go that. So we're about to get to the feedback section a little bit, and then I know at the end of that, I'll be like, well, "What are we doing next week?" Well, kind of ruined that part because we're telling you now.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
So you had a chance to stop it, but you said, let's do it. So now we're here.
I did. Oh, man. Am I going to regret this? I haven't seen it. I don't have any idea.
I haven't either. Haven't seen it either. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking, of course, of the feedback section we're going to get to, well, there goes the phone. So
all right.
I guess it is time.
Answer it.
Let's get to it. All right, we do have a little bit of feedback this week, just a bit. First, kicking back to last week with some Children of the Corn feedback from our friend Tony. Haven't heard from in just a little bit, so that's always good to get caught up with Tony. Daphne, why don't you go ahead and take that first one?
All right, Tony says, I haven't seen it in a while, but I think it is one of the better Stephen King movies. I saw this one in the movie theater. That's how old I am. LOL. Looking forward to hearing what you young people thought.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tony.
Just a baby. So hopefully you enjoyed that one last week for sure. I had a good time with that one. Let us know. And then, yeah, of course, for this week on Dead Silence, of course, we're hearing from Catherine on that one. Had a lot of great thoughts on it. So she says, Billy reminds me of Slappy from the Night of the Living Dummy books in the Goosebumps series. Yes, absolutely. It was one of the few books that creeped me out as a kid, so the first 10 minutes of Dead Silence were very intense. It definitely had that horror feel of the early 2000s. Everything was gloomy and overcast, lots of overhead shots when driving, zooming in and out of faces, meeting the one person who knows everything before they die shortly afterwards, etc. I did not expect that ending and had to rewatch it twice to understand what happened. I loved the Saw series, so I enjoyed the flashback ending sequence. As much as Billy, in that tongue, creeped me out. All right, so you got the extended or the unrated version as well, we've learned. So he says, as much as Billy and that tongue creep me out, I'm looking forward to rewatching this and paying closer attention to Edward and Ella. I'm looking forward to the character section this week. Wahlberg's detective portrayal was especially interesting. I couldn't decide if I was supposed to hate him or laugh at him.
Agreed. It was kind of comical, actually. Have to agree with that. Well, thank you, Tony and Catherine, for sending in your feedback. If you would like to be like Tony and Catherine and send us feedback, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast, or you can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. As always, you can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're feeling so inclined, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. You can also do that on Spotify now. Either or, we really appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. Of course, speaking of sharing the love, got to give those shout outs to things going on in the Podcastica universe around us and beyond. A lot of great stuff for you to check out, Podcastica listeners. Of course, Strange Indeed is back. My other podcast, me and Rima, have been going through You Season 5 on Netflix, the final season of You. Having a blast with that, jumping back into... I don't know. Shenanigans seems like too nice of a word for what Joe Goldberg gets up to. But yeah, it's so much fun to get back to You with Rima and cover just the insanity that is that show. We're having a blast. Of course, our first 3 episodes are up now. It is Netflix series with the whole season dropped, but we do go weekly over there, so we're having a good time with that. Just kind of guessing what's going to happen as we go along. It's been a lot of fun. So definitely, if you are watching that show, check it out. And if you've already binged the whole season, like a lot of people do, you can still go to the Strange Indeed Facebook page. And Rima is awesome about putting up feedback sections for, like, feedback threads for every single episode. So even if you've watched ahead of us, leave your feedback and we'll get to it when we get to it. So that's always fun. We like to hear what's going on with people watching along with us or ahead of us. But yeah, it's great to be back with Strange Indeed. Besides that, lots of wonderful stuff with Podcastica. Of course, The Cast of Us, which is kind of the renamed flagship show with The Last of Us coverage right now. And season 2 of The Last of Us has been phenomenal. And Jason, Eric, and Ben have been doing some really, really, really great coverage of those episodes over there. Plus the feedback episodes coming up later in the week that you can listen to as well. Daphne was on the newest feedback episode.
I was. There was a lot of feedback, a lot of great thoughts on just the direction of the show and the characters and the adaptation between the game and the TV series. It was really a lot of fun to hear what people had to say.
And also on that feed, on The Cast of Us, you can check out The Walking Dead Dead City coverage. Season 2 of that is out right now and is running as well. Alex and Ben are covering that show on that same feed, so you can definitely check out The Walking Dead coverage going on as well. Then we have The Handmaid's Tale with The Handmaid's Tale podcast, continuing season 6. This week, episode 7 is up now with Wendy, Jason, and Daphne just can't not be doing all the things. She's just staying busy.
I am.
Yeah, so Handmaid's Tale fans, definitely check out that podcast if you're not already. They've been covering that one for a little while and doing some great stuff. I know you got the freaking showrunner on the podcast last season, so
and the season before, yeah,
the best too. So they can pull some fun stuff over there. So stay tuned and see what fun stuff they do. Yeah, it's great coverage, great stuff, and obviously, if the showrunner of the show is listening and noticing their great coverage, you know that they're incredible. So definitely go check it out. Star Wars TV cast as well. James and Jonathan with Andor, Arc 3, which is very important Gorman arc. I'm not going to say much more, but holy cow, this week's Andor was, just the fan service in a good way. Just like seeing as a, Star Wars fan and Rogue One fan and seeing where they're leading and getting there. There's a lot of great action, a lot of great excitement, and also just tears. Man, I knew what was coming, and it still was not great. In the best way. I loved it. So yeah, Andor has just been phenomenal, and James and Jonathan have been doing incredible coverage over there on the Star Wars TV cast. We just got 3 episodes left next week, just these 4 arcs, so definitely check out their coverage. They've been breaking it down 3 episodes at a time each week, like a movie. It's been fantastic, so give them some love, give them a listen. Outside of Podcastica, of course, we give some love to the Pirate Core Entertainment Network. We still have a close connection with that network there, and Mark does an incredible job running that over there with all kinds of good stuff going on. So, of course, right now over there you can check out Mark and Jerry on Adrenaline Cinema covering Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It's been a little while, but they've been working their way. They were working their way through the Planet of the Apes movies, and then they've taken a little break from it. Everybody gets busy with all kind of stuff, but they're coming back with it, and so you can definitely check out the next installment there on Adrenaline Cinema. And then our friends over at TV Podcast Industries also do incredible work covering The Last of Us as well. So give them some love because you can never listen to too much Last of Us. So a lot of great stuff for you to check out. And then if you want some comedy, reprieve from all the seriousness on a lot of these shows going on, check out Buffalo Podcast, me and Daphne, again, with our friends Jeff and Jerry, just making jokes, cracking funnies, being goofballs. That's what we do. Playing games and making the ha-has. It's a good time.
Can you believe we've been doing it for almost a year?
Almost a year on that podcast. It's insane.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Time has just gone so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely go check out all that stuff over this week after you've listened to this, of course. And then when you can come back here next week for a brand new episode of Run for Your Lives. What are we doing next week? You know what? I asked you, I set it up, but we already discussed that in the episode, so I don't even have to set it up.
Yeah.
People already know what we're doing because I spun the wheel earlier, so...
You did.
Damsel, yeah, we already picked that up, so...
Yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Yeah. We're not going to do that every time, but we will from time to time spin the wheel, and we have to cover what comes up on the wheel. Pake's set the rule in place, so.
Yeah, if we call upon the wheel, we must abide by it.
Yes. That's very clear. Well, we've reached the end of another creepy episode. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.